So up until now, we've talked about what n8n is, what you can build with n8n, how it compares to Zapier, Make, and other AI automation tools. I've also walked you through the n8n interface and the different types of nodes available. Now, in this lesson, we're going to be building your first AI automation. So come with me into n8n and let's get started. Our first AI automation is a motivational quote generator. And as you can see on the screen, I do have a schedule trigger. I do have it connected to a Gemini chat model. I have a simple memory, and then I have a Gmail node. So what this motivational code generator does is that it sends daily motivational messages straight into my inbox. So I'm going to show you exactly how I built it. I'm going to explain the logic along the way and explain what every node does so that if you are trying this out at home, you know exactly what to do. Let's go back home and let's click on Create Workflow. Once you click on Create Workflow, it brings you to this empty canvas you have in here. Remember, for every AI automation you build, the first step should always be a trigger. And we talked about the various types of nodes available. So if you click on Add First Step in here, you'd see that there are multiple ways in which you can trigger your workflow or your automation. Since we want this to run on a schedule, you're going to select the On Schedule trigger. Now, in here, you can decide what time you want to set the schedule to and how many times in a day you want this thing to run. So for instance, if I wanted to run every day at midnight, that is the exact rule I'm going to put in here. And now the next step here is to add our AI agent node. So I'm adding the AI agent node because the AI agent node will be responsible for generating the messages for me. I'm not going to be putting in the messages manually, so I will need the help of the AI agent node to generate the messages for me. So this is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on the plus button here. Once I click on the plus button here, what I'm interested in is AI. I'm going to select AI. And in here, I'm just going to select the AI agent node. Now, because I am not using a chat trigger and I am using a schedule trigger, I'm not really interested in the information coming through from the chat trigger. What you see here is the source for prompt user message. And this is really the type of prompt message you'd put inside ChatGPT. So I'm going to click on this and then I'm going to click on define below. Now in here, what I want to do is just really define what my prompt user message would be. How do I want my agent to be prompted every single day? Since what I'm interested in is the agent generating motivational messages every single day, this is exactly what I'm going to put in the prompt user message. I'm just going to say generate a motivational quote for today. Okay, that's exactly what I'm going to use in my prompt user message. Again, think of your prompt user message as the message you enter into ChatGPT anytime you are trying to prompt it. That's really what your prompt user message is. And it can be as detailed as possible, or it can just be a single line, right? So once you have that inside there, the next step for you is to decide whether you want the output to be in a specific format. This is our first AI automation, so we don't really need to specify a specific format, okay? Now you can also enable a fallback model as well. That is, if the main model fails, which other model should it use? Because when you're building AI automations, I mean, the main reason why people would build automations is to ensure that they are saving time, right? So you want to make sure that your automation is as reliable as possible, which is why you would have like a fallback model. Now, under options, you can decide to add so many options to this AI agent node. But what is very important is you add a system message. Now, if you are familiar with using ChatGPT, then your system message would really be what you would put in the project you create in ChatGPT as the instructions. So that's really what your system message is. So if you typically use ChatGPT and you use the projects feature and you typically add instructions, then that's exactly what you'll be putting inside your system message, okay? So inside my system message, you can also go down and define exactly what this AI agent is or exactly what you want the model to do for you. One good way of defining your system message is to describe the role and also give the behavior. You can define things like the tone. You can define things like words that should never be said in your motivational quotes. You can really decide on how the structure should be like. For the purposes of this video, I just want to keep it very simple. I'll just give some few instructions, okay? The exact system message I'm going for is write a short motivational message to inspire someone's morning. Make it sound friendly, human, and personal, and keep it under 200 characters and avoid quotes from famous people. I probably don't want to get a copyright strike, or I don't want to get sued by using people's quotes. So I'm sort of like defining all that in here. And I know I just have like 3 lines in the instructions box here, but typically you could have so many lines. Mind you, what you give to your AI is what you get back, okay? So this is what I have here as my system message. I know that this video is focused on generating motivational messages. If you own a business and you want to send, let's say, daily financial tips to your customers, you can use this automation for that. If you want to send daily wellness tips to your customers, you can use this AI automation for that as well. So this is great. You connect your front end to this as a back end, and every day people just get messages as well. It really depends on how far or how well you want to improve upon this AI automation in here. So now that we have our system message and our prompt user message set up, the next step is to add a chat model. So you need to really decide what model you want to use. So in my case, I want to use Google Gemini's chat model. So I'm going to come into Google Gemini and I'm going to click on the chat model here. Now, Google just released Gemini 3.0, so you can decide to use that. I'm just using the default model set here, which is 2.5. Okay, before you are able to use Google Gemini's chat model, you need to have API keys. You need to make sure that your credentials are set up. And in order to do so, you need to go into the Google Cloud Console and create API keys. And I'm going to show you exactly how you do that. So come with me into the Google Cloud Console. In order to access the Google Cloud Console, you need to go to console.cloud.google.com. And once you go there, it'll bring you to this home page. What you're interested in is first creating a project. So you just have to click on this icon and you click on new projects. Once you click on create projects, you give it a name. And now once you are inside your project, and then you click on APIs and services. Inside APIs and services, what you want to do first is enable APIs and services. So in here, you want to search for the Google services you want to use. So in this case, I'm going to search for Gemini Cloud Assist or Gemini for Google Cloud. And then I'm going to click on this and I'm going to enable it, okay? So once you have this enabled, because we want to eventually send this to an email address, we also want to make sure that we have Gmail enabled. So you have to search for Gmail as well and enable that API. So you click on Gmail and then you enable the API. Okay, once you have your APIs enabled, the next step is to come back into APIs and services, click on credentials, and then you click on create credentials and you select API key. And then once you select API key, you'll be able to provide information in here. If this is your first time doing this, you probably would also have to sign up first to Google Cloud Console and answer a few questions before you be able to get onto the screen. Now, I must say that if you are self-hosting, you would definitely have to go through this process. But if you are cloud hosting n8n, all this form of authentication will be handled for you automatically since you are in the cloud version and everything is handled for you. So like I always say that if this is your first time trying out n8n, you're not technical at all, I'll just recommend that you just go with a cloud version because that's a lot more easier and very easy to set up and manage as well. So let's come back into our automation here with the assumption that you have your API key created already, and click on create new credentials and then put in your API key. So once you have your API key set up, you should be good to go. So I'm going to come back in here, and then after you have your chat model connected, the next thing you're interested in adding here is your memory. So I'm going to click on memory, and you can just use a simple memory. If there are other types of memory here as well, so if you want to use, let's say, MongoDB chat memory or PostgreSQL Redis, it really depends on what type of memory you want to go for. So I'm going with a simple memory, and then in here, what you're really interested in is to get a key for this. In order to get a key for this, all you want to do is just execute the previous node, and we'll probably just drag the key from the workflow ID. If you are doing this in production, you probably want to have a better way of creating keys that are unique so that your automation can remember anytime it runs. Because you having a key in memory would help your AI automation remember and keep some form of history so that you can always map an output to a particular run. Okay, so I'm going to open my AI agents node now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on execute step. Now, as you can see, our output has been generated for us and we have a motivational message that has been generated for us. Now, the next step is to connect our Gmail node. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to click on Gmail. Again, back to my point on whether you're self-hosting or cloud hosting. If you are cloud hosting, then you're able to connect to Gmail by doing the authentication all inside n8n. But if you are self-hosting, then you have to go back into the Google Cloud console and create a client secret and a client ID, because you need a client secret and a client ID to authenticate into Gmail. So what we are interested in terms of the actions is the send a message action, okay? So that is exactly what we are going to do. So let's assume you have your credentials set up now in Google Cloud Console. If you want to do that again, like I said, you come into Google Cloud Console. This time around, instead of creating an API key, what you're interested in is OAuth client ID. So this is what you're really interested in, the OAuth client ID. And inside here, if you are self-hosting, all you have to do is create new credentials and then you'll be able to enter the client ID and then the client secret as well. Okay, so let's go back. Assuming you have your credentials connected to Gmail and your resource and everything will just stay the way they are, now you have to enter a to email. So in this case, I'm probably going to be entering this email address and then I'm just going to give it a subject. So the subject is really what you would use anytime you're creating an email. And for the message, what you just have to do is drag the output in here. And that should be it, okay? So if I should run this automation right now, it tells me that the automation has been sent. So if I should go into my Gmail account, I should see this automation already in my Gmail. So this is the motivational message we got as an output from our AI automation. Okay guys, this concludes this particular lesson. I'll encourage you to try other output types as well. Instead of sending an email, you can decide to send a voice note, you can decide to send a video instead. So I would encourage you to try it out as well on your own and see which other use cases you can build on top of this AI automation.